Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. The Supreme Court of the State of Michigan is now in special session. The Honorable Chief Justice Young, Justice McCormick, Judge Cooper, and Judge Petoskey presiding.
Connors.
Connors.
Yeah.
Connors.
Answer something.
That's it. Good morning, and welcome to the 13th Annual Michigan Adoption Day. This is a national program that my former colleague, Justice Maura Corrigan, brought to Michigan. Our theme, Giving Thanks for Families, is a perfect fit for this week, as families gather to celebrate Thanksgiving. I am joined today with my colleagues, Justice Bridget McCormick and Judges Timothy Connors and Michael Petoskey of Washtenaw. I agree. We encourage courts statewide to participate in Adoption Day by holding adoption proceedings in an open court setting, speaking to service organizations, or simply sharing adoption information with community leaders and members. Our purpose today is to give a public window into the adoption process. We certainly celebrate the adoptions that will be finalized today, but we cannot lose sight of the bigger goal, educating the public and raising the awareness about the great rewards of being an adopted parent. We must also remember that those children who are still waiting for permanent, loving homes, in my view, one child without a forever family is one too many. So it's up to us to deliver a message to potential parents statewide. We can do this. We can find a forever family for every child. So today across Michigan, families will have a special reason to celebrate and give thanks as they become a forever family for an adoptive child. In fact, about 100 adoptions are being finalized today, making Adoption Day one that will be remembered for a lifetime. I look forward to Adoption Day because there are more smiles here, here in particular, and in courtrooms across the state than we'll see all year. I also look forward to Adoption Day because I get to meet the boys and girls and their adoptive families who are overjoyed by the moment when their relationship, which is already strong in their hearts, is finalized in the law. I finally also look forward to Adoption Day because I have the pleasure of seeing colleagues from the bench who are dedicated to helping children succeed and find loving families. In addition to my judicial colleagues, also joining us are Nick Lyon, Michigan Director of Health and Human Services, and Steve Joerger, Executive Director of the Children's Services Agency, who will be honored shortly with this year's Daniel J. Wright Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Monica Hicks, for adoption caseworker, for her dedicated and compassionate work on behalf of Washtenaw families. So to the families who have joined us this morning, thank you for being willing to participate and to raise awareness about the importance of adoption. But more important, thank you for opening your hearts and your homes to these children. Because of the big hearts and welcoming arms of thousands of families just like yours, Michigan's beginning to close in on the goal of having an adoptive forever family for every child. Finally, while this day marks the end of a legal process, another officially begins. The process of raising a child is the most exciting, challenging, and meaningful of human experiences. Since each child is unique, no parenting experience is exactly the same as another, even within the same family, I might add. But what we do have in common is the great joy and satisfaction that can come from being a part of a loving family and seeing a child grow into a successful and caring adult. That joyful experience begins in earnest today, and I hope this happy day is the first of many happy days for your families. And now it's my honor to introduce my colleague and nemesis, Justice Bridget McCormick, who takes every occasion to make me the target of her jokes.
He means that lovingly. Thank you very much, Chief Justice Young, and to my friends and colleagues, Judge Connors and Judge Petoskey, for joining us today for this ceremony. It's really nice for me to experience this happy occasion with these three mentors. Judge Connors is my home county judge. I live in Washtenaw County, and he was patient and kind to me as a baby lawyer practicing in Washtenaw County for many years and continues to be an inspiration and a mentor. Judge Petoskey has been my patient guide in my ongoing effort to learn about our state and tribal courts, their relationships, what our state courts can learn from our tribal court partners, how we can cooperate, and most especially in how we treat our children. And not to embarrass you, Mr. Chief Justice, you are technically my nemesis, that's right, but truth be told, the Chief Justice has also been a kind and always supportive teacher to me as I've been learning how to be a justice. So it's very nice to experience a happy occasion in court with you three, for me personally.
With teddy bears.
That helps. I hope someone gets a lot of photos with you in the middle of two teddy bears.
This is going to ruin my image.
Yeah. That's the idea. Usually when the Chief Justice and I are in this courtroom, there are nervous attorneys sitting at these tables waiting for hard questions from one of us, him. Usually I ask nice questions. And it's nice to be here with no questions to ask at all, just to witness the happy events of today. Someone once said that adoption is another word for love, and I like that a lot. I think the words really are interchangeable. So for those of you who are social media savvy, our hashtag for today is adoption equals love. It's true. We have a hashtag. I can tell you what that is later.
Thank you.
And to the families who are here today to finalize adoptions, thank you for opening your hearts and your arms and your homes to these children. Supported by your love, I can't wait to see what they all do. When I attended my first adoption day, I guess 2 years ago only, I was warned to bring plenty of Kleenex. I was told you don't really need to know anything else, just bring a lot of Kleenex. And that advice turned out to be exactly right. This is one of the few occasions where you see judges crying in courtrooms. You don't see that on TV, but you'll see it today, not just here probably, because I know Judge Connors, but across the state in more than 30 counties where we're doing similar ceremonies like this. The point of this is to celebrate and give thanks to the families like the ones here today as they welcome and embrace statewide more than 100 children by adoption. And we also remember those children who are still waiting for permanent loving homes. Some people think in the United States we have very few children available for adoption, and that's just not the case. Here in Michigan, there are about 13,000 children in the foster care system, and among those, 2,400 are ready to be adopted. Their parents' rights have been terminated, and they have a goal of being adopted. They want to be adopted. Last year, more than 1,700 children were adopted through the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and private adoption agencies. Thanks to the efforts of many dedicated people, many of them here today, Michigan is getting closer and closer to our goal of having an adoptive home for every child who needs one. More and more families are opening their hearts and their homes to a new family member, just like the families here today. But you guys here today are role models for the rest of the people out there who are considering this. You're setting the example that we hope others will follow. And that's why this day is so important and why we celebrate this publicly. Our goal here is to raise awareness so that people who may not have previously considered adopting will be inspired to learn more about the adoption process and take the leap. As the motto for Michigan Adoption Day says, we give thanks for the blessing of families. I know this event marks just the first of many happy Thanksgiving for these families here today and all the others around the state embracing a child through adoption. Remember, hashtag adoption equals love. Thank you very much.
And now we'll have a tribal blessing by Judge Petoskey, Chief Judge, Pokagon Band of Potawatomi Indians.
I would say as we get started, I just want to set the context for what I'm about to do, and that is, the focus of today is giving thanks to families. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we go forward, but this is really a celebration. In our communities, it is traditional for us to open almost everything we do with a blessing. And it's not so much to establish religion or to have some kind of dogma regarding religion, but for us it's a way of life, and it accomplishes a couple of things primarily. One is to give thanks. And the theme here leading into Thanksgiving week is thanks to the families. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that as we go forward. Giving thanks to families, being thankful. For us Native people, it's not just one day a year, but every day we give thanks for what the Creator has given us. Secondly, it's to set the stage, to dispel any negativity. We are all busy people. We rush from one thing to the next and have 3 or 4 things on our plate at any given time, at least that many. And so it just gives us a moment to take pause, get rid of negativity, focus on the positive, so that we can set off down the road in a good direction. So I'm going to be very brief. I'm going to stand. You can stay seated. Greater miigwech for all of the families who've come here today to participate in this celebration. Miigwech particularly for the Michigan Supreme Court in its leadership in establishing the positive relationships between state courts and tribal courts in this state. We know that you recognize Michigan is a leader in that regard, and we give you many thanks for the leadership from the court and extending its hand out to its tribal communities so that we can embrace each other as members of the family of governments. Children are sacred. Families are at the heart of our culture. The relationship that parents, adoptive parents and adoptive mothers can have with children is a special and sacred relationship. It can be so precious. It can be so rewarding. In fact, there is probably nothing more in life that can be any more rewarding. Please bestow your blessings upon the Michigan Supreme Court, all the judges throughout the state who are conducting these celebrations today, and all who have come here for this celebration in this court, particularly the families and special guests. Miigwech.
Yes. Do you have a presentation, Mr. Mike?
I just love starting with this slide because I think it says so much. Children are sacred. They are a gift from the Creator. When children are born, they come into this world completely helpless. Completely helpless. They are dependent upon us adults and those who surround them for love, for meeting their basic needs, for meeting any special needs that they might have, for nurture, for love, for strength, for comfort, really for everything. I've been a tribal judge for over 30 years and have presided over many child protection cases in various tribal communities. And one of the things that I've come to learn is children deserve everything that we can give them. And I've come to learn that foster care parents and adoptive parents are a special group of people. They are so special. Sometimes when I look out and see them and interact and exchange with them, I wish every parent could be like some of our foster care and adoptive parents, because they go above and beyond. They have learned to set aside their selfish needs and what's important to them to meet the needs of children. How wonderful is that? I mean, that's great. I mean, I just love adoptions. It's one of the few fun things that a trial court judge gets to do. Adoptions and marriages. The rest of it isn't so much filled full of celebration and fun. Family is the heart of Native American culture, and I know for many of you, probably all of you who are here, family is at the heart of who we are. There are 12 federally recognized tribes within the state of Michigan, 7 in the Lower Peninsula and 5 in the Upper Peninsula. I've had the privilege of establishing the tribal court. We got this on a timer, so it's out of my control. I've lost it. But there are 12 federally recognized tribes within the state of Michigan, 7 in the Lower Peninsula, 5 in the Upper Peninsula, and I've had the privilege of establishing the courts for 5 of the tribes in the Lower Peninsula over my 30-year career. It's been great work. One of the things that has kind of been a milestone for me is when this Michigan Supreme Court, through the leadership of Chief Justice Michael Kavanaugh back in 1992, brought state court and tribal court judges together for the very first time. First, so we could just simply meet each other and get to know each other. But also we were charged with developing strategies for avoiding jurisdictional conflict and strategies for cooperation. One of the things that we quickly learned is there was a great deal of common ground between our two governments. Michigan Indian people, as maybe some of you realize, were very effectively dispossessed of their land. So our tribal land holdings are rather small these days. Most of our families do not live on reservations. They live off tribal trust land and within the state. So many of our cases begin in state courts and may ultimately be transferred to tribal courts. And what happens earlier in that case follows that case to the tribal court. So we've realized that there is a huge area of common ground in this state as it relates to children, particularly Indian children, between the two governments and the family of governments. Just like we have learned the wisdom to collaborate between the two jurisdictions, many of the tribal child protection systems collaborate. You know, it was Chief Sitting Bull many, many years ago, back in the 1800s, said to his fellow tribesmen, let's put our heads together and see what kind of future we can plan for our children. That's the essence of what brings us here today. I am extremely grateful to the Chief Justice and Justice McCormick, the Michigan Supreme Court, and Judge Connors for inviting me and asking me to be part of this celebration. It's a wonderful thing. Bless you all, and man, you families have fun. I mean, it can be so rewarding. It can be so fun. There is nothing more precious than being a member of a loving, supportive family. Best wishes.
And now, Director of Department of Health and Human Services, Nick Lyon. Yeah, just pull the microphone
I used to be
down.
in front of here, so it's got to
Sorry.
closer here a little bit.
Let's turn it around.
First, on behalf of the Department of Health and Human Services, my name is Nick Lyon. I'm the director of the department. This is an exciting day and month in Michigan as we celebrate not only the adoptions being finalized today and during this month, but also all the adoptions from the foster care system that have been finalized throughout the state this year. It's my honor to be part of the adoptions being finalized today at the Hall of Justice. Thank you to the Supreme Court, the State Court Administrative Office, Chief Justice Young and Justice McCormick for hosting this event in this remarkable chamber. I also want to thank everyone who has helped these families in the adoption process, including the staff members of the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, our private agency partners, and the courts throughout the state. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank Judge Timothy Connors from the 22nd Circuit Court in Washtenaw County, who is here with us today to finalize these adoptions, and for the support from Chief Judge Michael Petoskey from the Pocahontas Band of Potawatomi Indians. But the real stars of today are all of you, the families. Congratulations and thank you for allowing us to be a part of your special day here today, but mostly for the patience, kindness, love, and stability that you're providing for these young people. Adoption Day and Adoption Month were established by the Michigan Supreme Court in what was then the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services in 2003. And this is my first year as the new department director, and I'm honored to be here with all of you. During the month of November, we at the department and our contracted adoption agencies throughout the state and courts are celebrating by participating in special events for adoptive families, finalizing adoptions like we are here today, providing educational materials for residents regarding the adoption process, and raising awareness of adoption needs. In Michigan, we believe that every child, regardless of age or disability, is entitled to a permanent family relationship. The goal of Michigan's Adoption Services Program is to place children with forever families through adoption following the termination of parental rights due to child abuse or neglect. Adoption services are provided to children and adoptive families before and after the adoption by the department through contracts with our adoption agencies. Currently, there are about 13,000 children in the foster care system. Additionally, there are approximately 2,400 children whose parents' rights have been terminated. This year, more than 1,700 children were adopted by families like you through our efforts in our private contracted agencies. Currently, though, we still have 290 children, approximately, who don't have an identified adoptive family, are in need of a forever family. These children also need a loving, supportive, safe, and stable environment to grow up. And I am optimistic that through efforts like this today, throughout the month, both here in Lansing and throughout the state, we can raise awareness for these children so that they can find the same type of family and the same type of stability that you're providing for your children here today. Thank you again for your efforts in that regard. I have a second purpose for today as well. We're also here to honor Steve Joerger with an award that's in memory of Daniel J. Wright. As many of you know, Daniel J. Wright was an attorney and longtime leader in child support and child welfare reform and was credited with the Michigan Miracle in 2002. As special assistant to then Chief Justice Maura Corrigan, he led the state's effort to upgrade Michigan's child support enforcement system by federally mandated deadlines. Mr. Wright saved the state $142 million in federal fines and earned the state $36 million in refunds for fines it had already paid. Later, as director of the Friend of the Court Bureau of Child Welfare Services Division of the State Court Administrative Office, he helped to create the state's adoption forums to deal with adoption barriers that were stranding children in foster care. He found real value in this work. He worked on legislation to give foster children a greater voice in decisions about their lives. The law now requires courts to consult the child when holding a hearing about permanent home placement. It goes without saying that this award is named after someone who had an incredible impact on the lives of vulnerable Michigan children. I can say with confidence and personal experience that this year's winner, Steve Joerger, is worthy of the award. Steve has spent almost his entire adult life working as a public service to make Michigan a better place for children. For more than 30 years, his professional life has taken him on a journey from a young man working in a residential facility through frontline work responding to child abuse and neglect, to field oversight and quality assurance, to his current role as Executive Director of the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Children's Services Agency. He has led our negotiation process through the master settlement with a focus on achieving positive outcomes for children and families while maintaining high accountability and performance standards. He has worked diligently to understand the evolving challenges faced by field staff and eliminate unnecessary process and stressors so staff can spend more time engaging with children and families. Aside from his many professional accomplishments and strong personal characteristics, what makes Steve most deserving of the award is his selfless approach to everything he does. Steve's motto is to do what is right and necessary to help children and families, and do it today. He has demonstrated this selfless approach and his leadership throughout his years at the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and has displayed a genuine passion for improving the child welfare system. He consistently embodies the perfect combination of urgency, confidence, humor, and calmness that makes all of us and his staff feel supported and appreciated. I've seen this firsthand, whether he's talking to a teenager who is aged out of the foster care or testifying on child welfare appropriations. He will listen with an open mind and heart, explicitly weigh all available options, and respond with a sense of realness that reflects the best interests of children and is always the right thing to do. He is a passionate champion for the well-being and protection of children and has experience working collaboratively with the state legislature, community partners, courts, and other child welfare advocates. His exceptional service to Michigan's children over his lifetime we felt for years to come. And I can tell you, post-merger, for those of you that don't know, we brought about 2 big state departments in January. And I've had the privilege and the honor of learning what children's services is all about from this man. He is, the points that I made, his calmness, his sense of urgency at the same time, and his dedication to doing what is right for the children and families in the state has been a pure privilege and honor for me to work with him. And I can't think of a better award winner in honor of Mr. Wright. So thank you to all of you today for letting me honor Steve in front of you. With leaders like him, I know that we can do a great job for our children in the state. And again, I want to thank all of you. The commitment that you have made to providing a better, safe, and stable home for these children, words cannot express how much appreciation I feel for what you've done here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Justices, for your participation today. Justice Young, I know you've been here many years in a row, and I really thank you for your leadership in this court for this celebration today.
We're just surviving, right?
You're surviving. And thank you, Director Lyon, for your comments, so kind. Our focus today and the reason we are here is to celebrate the creation of permanent families for many children and prospective adoptive parents all across Michigan. No event is more important and worthy of celebration and thanksgiving. And to that end, I'm going to keep my remarks short today. The Daniel J. Wright Award is significant because of Daniel Wright, his passion, his achievements, and a lifetime of successes on so many fronts. Prior recipients, including Chief Justice Maura Corrigan, are phenomenal leaders who are publicly heralded as uniquely great. It is humbling, to say the least, to follow individuals who are giants in their own right in their respective fields. So today, as I contemplate this tremendous honor, I do so, understanding that that this award reflects much more than the feeble efforts of one person, rather it reflects the successes of a team of individuals. Former Alabama football coach Paul Bear Bryant once said, and I'll paraphrase, "I've read a lot about successful people. They don't do it alone. It takes a team." Rarely does an individual achieve success in isolation. Success is truly birthed in a team framework. Any measure of success that I have enjoyed has come not from my own efforts, but from a team approach. In my case, my wife Dawn, who is here today, and my two of my 3 children, Ashley and Caleb, sitting right over there, have been a rock-solid support. They have always stood with me, despite long hours of work and travel, time away from home. They've been a constant source of encouragement They're my home team. Then we have Michigan's child welfare team, who is, in my view, and I believe the feds would agree with me today, one of the strongest in the country. My colleagues from the State Court Administrative Office, the Federation, the Association of Accredited Child Family Services Agencies, child welfare judges across Michigan, stakeholders, and MDHHS staff form an exceptional child welfare team. My father once told me to marry up, and as you can see, I did. That advice worked so well, I thought I would apply it to the workplace and hire up. So I've made it a practice to hire people that are better than I am. Now, that may be a low bar, but I have tried to do that. We have an MDHHS team, child welfare team, that is simply incredible. They work long hours, they lead the country in many areas, and they deserve accolades. I humbly accept this award today, not for my own personal achievements, but for the achievements of Michigan's team. You are all amazing, and I trust that the results of our efforts will continue to benefit Michigan's children for years to come. In closing, I want to thank each and every prospective adoptive parent today. I thank you for your love, for your commitment, and your sacrifice as evidenced by the events that will occur momentarily. Christina Roma, who was adopted from Korea at the age of 2, said it so well. My birth mother brought me into this world, but it was my adoptive parents who gave me life. You are giving the gift of life today. I would like to close with a short poem entitled 100 Years From Now. 100 years from now won't matter what kind of car I drive, what kind of house I lived in, how much money I had in the bank, nor the clothes that I wore. But the world may be a little better because I was important in the life of a child. To our prospective adoptive parents today, you're important in the life of a child. You are making a difference, and I honor you today. Thank you very much, and God bless.
All right. Now is the time for the adoptions to proceed. Judge Connors?
Yes, thank you. Before we begin, I think I too would like to echo the sentiments of gratitude for this space and these hosting by our Supreme Court. I'd like to thank Justice Young and Justice McCormick. Justices, you carry heavy responsibilities on your shoulders. It is not an easy assignment, and I want you to know we recognize the work that you do and how difficult it is to lead us. I don't think you often get affirmation or appreciation. I would like to take this time on behalf of all of the citizens to thank you both.
Thank you.
I'd also like to really welcome Director Lyon and congratulate Mr. Joerger. I've worked with Mr. Joerger over the years. I have tremendous respect for your work, Steve. And I welcome Director Lyon. I'm really looking forward to working closely with the two of you as we continue to find ways that we might improve the common ground we have institutionally to improve our services in child welfare to our youth, to our families, and our communities. And I know you've been supportive of our efforts to try some things. So welcome and congratulations again, Steve. I'd also really like to thank this historic moment to have the leadership and the blessing from Judge Petoskey on these fine families. I know you got the little ones and they're eager to get out and start coloring, but before you leave the building, there's a learning center right outside the door for the youth. And there's a beautiful interactive display there on the three fires, the three tribes, the people who were here before we all came and who are still here and share these peninsulas with us. And when you push the button, you'll see a familiar face. It's this judge right over here explaining everything, but it's 29 years ago, so it might take a minute to recognize him, but the robe is the same, so you'll have that there. So miigwech, Judge. One of the things Justice McCormick talked about is the opportunity in this state to learn from our neighbors, our tribal neighbors, of how we might in our justice systems bring justice. to our families. And Judge Petoskey has taught both Justice McCormick and myself and shared about the 7 grandfather teachings. And Justice McCormick obviously picked up because she put it on the hash mark for social media today. One of those is love. Love. That's why you're all here. Love is selfless. Love is nurturing. Love is embracing. And love is the ultimate truth in all things. So one of the things that we continue to try to learn and we talk about is when we're looking at our families who are struggling and our youth who are hurting, how is our community more supportive? So when they leave the jurisdiction of the court, they go back out in a healthier way. And peacemaking and restorative justice is one of the ways that we are learning from our tribal neighbors that we might be able to do a better job at that. Monica Hicks, who you've all worked with, and it's great to see some familiar faces in this happy moment. I know that man with the beard, I still remember you so well. But Monica Hicks is a great example of those transitions in those ways. Recently, we had a youth who was leaving in a healthier way. Monica had touched his heart while he was in the jurisdiction. One of the things we have learned in trying are closing circles that we've learned from our tribal neighbors in peacemaking, and he asked that Monica be there. And that was important to him. So, we honor these 3 families from Washtenaw County. Your stories are unique and powerful and different. I know we have an adoption of a step-parent. I know we have an adoption by a grandmother, and I know we have an adoption of an adult for the child within that needed that love and support. Each of your stories is so important, and at the end of the day, it is you that we honor. Ms. Hicks.
Good morning, Your Honors and Justices. I'm a little nervous. I said I'm a little nervous. I typically don't speak in a crowd quite like this, so but I just have to thank you for inviting us to be part of this ceremony. I started doing adoption work for the court 16 years ago when I came into the court hoping to do juvenile probation, but ended up in the adoption department and fell in love with it. I mean, how can you not with all these kids and families? And I do honestly feel like God's put me in this position for a reason, because I still wake up every day and love what I do. And I'm going to start crying before y'all even start crying, but I just love being part of all of this. So I'm just thankful for that. And I just wanted to point out, too, I do realize that our focus today is primarily on foster care youth and the need for foster families. I just have to say that working with the families that I've worked with, which I was explaining to Your Honor this morning, I think I've been part of over 2,000 adoptions in Washtenaw County throughout my career. And any parent, whether it's a foster parent or a step parent or a grandmother or a relative or anybody that steps up to help care for a child, should be recognized. And I think keeping them in the family, whether it's a step parent or a grandmother or an aunt or uncle, is huge and important as well. Obviously, we do need foster families for the youth that don't have the privilege to remain in their homes and in the safety of their families. But I do want to recognize that any person that steps up to care for a child is important in this child's life. So today I do have 3 families. I'm going to introduce each one of them separately and tell you just a little bit about them individually. But first of all, I'd like to invite the Hall family to come up and have a seat at the table, if you don't mind. I have the mother, Tawana, is here, and her husband with the beard. I asked him last time I saw him at court if he was going to shave it. He's like, heck no, I've been growing this out. It's no shave November. I'm not going to shave. So we have Joseph Hall, his wife Tawana Hall. Tawana's children here, who are soon to be Joseph's legal children as well, are Jaden and Ethan. Jaden, say hi. All right, anyway. Jaden and Ethan. So I've had the pleasure of working with this family for quite a while, unfortunately, and they can share my pain with this one. It's been a journey for these folks because in October of 2014, our law changed to where a custodial parent could not petition to terminate the rights of a non-custodial parent without first seeking sole custody if they had joint custody. So They had joint custody, Ms. Hall did with her ex-husband, so she had to go back through the court, go back through front of the court, seek sole custody. It's been quite a journey for her. That was in March, and we've gotten finally to a point where termination did take place. Your Honor oversaw that hearing and made that determination, and then we're finally here today. So I was kind of holding their hand a little bit through it. Just, Tawana's like, what's going on? Why is this taking so long? And I kept saying, Tawana, be patient. It'll work itself out. It'll all happen when the time is meant to happen. Don't rush the process and just let it kind of take its course. And when I called her and said, hey, guess what? We have an opportunity for you to come to the Supreme Court and do this. And she's like, wait, what? Like, that's a little much.
That's the way most people feel.
But she was very excited. And I said, you know what? I told you this is, had it not taken the course that it took, we wouldn't be here today with her and her family and with Joseph and then the kids. So they do have a little one. We've all heard her today. That's Raylan in the back. So they do have a joint child together as well. But I just have to thank you for allowing me to walk you through this and hold your hand through this, and for trusting me, with your process and with your family. And Joseph has really stepped up. They've been together since 2011. So the young folks you see here today, this is Dad. Anytime I ask them, what's going on with your dad, what's the favorite thing to do with your dad, they referenced Mr. Hall. So it was always going to him. And he's a gentleman who came to this relationship with no other children. So these are his kids, and for somebody to step into a relationship and say, I love you and everything you come with, I think is huge. So I just want to introduce the Hall family.
Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Hall, is there anything, you have had a long journey, and here we are, and all this time, is there anything you'd like to say to the justices or Judge Petoskey?
I'm just glad I finally got the opportunity to make it official. I love these news. I'm just glad I gave up with you.
Well, your love for them is very apparent. It's palpable. We've all seen it over all this long journey. And this is a good time in the road, is it not? And I do love that beard of yours, sir. That's really wonderful. Ms. Hall, anything you wanted to say, ma'am?
I'm grateful that I'm able to do this, because simply started dating better and better. It's always better, and he's always taking care of them. And they've always looked at it, and I'm just glad that we can make it official.
Well, Jaden and Ethan, you've been pretty good here. Anything you wanted to say? No. Well, you're doing well.
I love those smiles.
The smiles are grand, aren't they? Right from inside. Well, Ms. Hicks, for purposes of this record, this court does find the petition for order of adoption has been filed and all necessary orders terminating parental rights have been entered. The adoptee was not made a ward of the court, and the adoption of the adoptee by the petitioners is desirable and is in the best interest of the adoptee, and therefore it is ordered from this day forward, Mr. Joseph Dean Hall and Tawana Jean Hall for Ethan, and for Tawana, you are the parents. Congratulations and thank you. I think so. There's a bunch out there. Mostly we're trying to get the little ones through it all. They're being really good, you know. They're being good for their... I just love the sound. I know.
I know.
It fills the air with such a great energy.
People are usually trying to hush them up. I said, they're not bothered.
Mm-hmm.
I think I gotta take a picture up here. All right.
Ah, grand. Good. Come on up, kids.
Wherever you want to be.
Would you like us to move as judges? Make sure we get the bears in there.
Oh, you probably want Judge Connors in here.
Thanks, Monica. Ms. Hicks, our second family.
Your Honor, our second family, I would refer to Jennifer Schultz is here. Oh, there she is. She's the caseworker, actually, that worked with this family from Hands Across the Water, an agency
great.
in Washtenaw County.
Yep.
But I am going to have Anaya and her grandma come up. This is Anaya Fuller and her grandma Donna Davis, and I'll let Ms. Schultz speak to their family.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Right.
I will tell you, I don't know if you agree with me, but I think being a grandparent is the greatest blessing of all in the world. Do you agree?
You're right.
All right. And how are you today, Anaya?
Good.
This is a happy day. And welcome. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and your clients and tell us about this family and anything you would like to say, ma'am.
Good morning, Your Honors. This is Miss Donna Davis and Miss Anaya Fuller. This is a wonderful example of how kinship care can work and be successful, and grandparents can be successful at raising grandchildren. Miss Davis has provided care for Anaya for most of her life, even before she officially was placed in foster care, and Miss Davis became her foster parent. She was already caring for her. Miss Davis stepped up to become a foster parent, got licensed so that she could reap the benefits of being a licensed foster parent, and now has stepped up to adopt her granddaughter. Miss Davis is the one who's been there day in and day out, helping with homework, caring for Anaya when she was sick, taking her to all of her appointments, and Anaya is thriving in this home. So this is a wonderful example of relatives stepping up and providing care, and a wonderful example of a grandma providing awesome care to her granddaughter.
That's wonderful. Ms. Davis, is there anything you'd like to say?
No.
You're just glad to get it done, probably, huh?
Yes.
Anaya, is there anything you'd like to say? All right.
No.
Ms. Hicks, do you have the order? Justices, anything you'd like to say to this family while I review the order?
No, it looks like this is a happy family.
Well, Ms. Davis, for purposes of the record, in this space, the court does find that the petition for an order of adoption has been filed and all the necessary orders terminating parental rights have been entered. Your granddaughter was made a ward of this court, but the court finds it is absolutely in her best interest and is desirable for you to be her adoptive parent and to parent her not only as a grandmother, but as her mother at this point. So I'm very pleased to sign this, and thank you so much for having the love and the patience through this whole road in the courts. And now we hope to send you on in a good way, and thank you very much, Ms. Davis.
You can take your badge off. We know who you are now.
Big smiles, like Jesse already had those. Hold it. One more, hold it. Can you take one with yours? How do you pass it?
Hashtag adoption.
Just want to get into it. Big smile. Another one. One more.
Okay.
All set. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in a little bit. Ms. Hicks, I know our last and third family is a very special story. Mr. Joerger and Mr. Lyons, this is a story that all of us who work in this should listen to, and I understand this young lady's willing to share that story. It's helpful for us to hear for a youth and now an adult who has gone through our systems of what that experience is like and coming out on the other side, and we have much to learn from that, I think. Fortunately, this is a happy ending.
Your Honor, while they're making their way up, I just want to introduce the court and the public here to Douglas and Rachel Mooney. Hi, Abigail, how are you? You look much happier than when you first got here, sis. And Abigail and Robert are being adopted by Mr. Mooney today, and then they have a son together as well, Brantley. So I just wanted to just quickly, Miss Mooney has been very gracious in sharing her story with us today. It's a story I think needs to be heard, and it takes a ton of courage and strength, I think, to share her story not only with you but with total strangers in the building. But I think it's important. I met Miss Mooney. We discussed at the home study. We went through the family, her family structure and what that looks like and things like that. And I said, "How many siblings do you have?" She said, "Well, 13." I said, "Whoa, that's a lot." But then I started to learn more about her and her journey through foster care. She was adopted, and then she was also removed again, and through the foster care system again, and then was actually adopted as an adult from a family that I'll let her explain to how she met them. But I do have to recognize her sister Heidi is in the back. Hi, Heidi. Heidi actually was adopted through foster care as well on National Adoption Day 6 years ago in Washtenaw County. And her mom is here somewhere too. Oh, I'm sorry. They did an adoption in Washtenaw County Trial Court on Adoption Day 6 years ago. So I think it's really kind of cool. We were talking about it a little bit this morning outside, that they also get to share this day together as sisters as well. So I did do, on another note, their home study, and I went out and met with the kids and stuff, and they were very bonded to Doug. They were climbing all over him, I remember, during my visit, and it's very obvious that they are very bonded to each other. But I will let Rachel explain a little bit more about her story.
Thank you. And it's so good to see you all again. And Robert, I'm sorry about the bump on your head. I hope it's feeling better. He slipped on the water. And welcome, Ms. Mooney. Go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you for having us here today. And I'm so thankful for Doug. I just want to share a little bit about my story. I went into care when I was 6 years old. After the rights of my biological parents were terminated, I grieved, yet I was hopeful for a forever family. I was placed with an adoptive family 2 years after, and they adopted me and my two sisters. I thought this was my happy ending. I wanted so badly to make them love me by being the best kid I could, but it was not meant to be. When I was 17 years old, I was removed from my adoptive family for emotional and physical abuse. The once hopeful child was now devastated, and I thought for sure I would never have a family that actually loved me. I was headed off to college, and I was tired of the temporary foster homes that I had to move from every few weeks. So I called up a family I knew from church growing up and asked if they could let me stay with them until I left. I was a broken person at this point, hopeless and depressed. I put up walls and refused to let anyone in. That summer, the father of the home was laid off and going to school, so he was home every day. He taught me to drive, helped me apply for jobs, and told me endless stories about his life. The mom took the time to listen to me cry and help me do things like pick out interview clothes. The summer passed, and with only a few weeks till I was heading off to orientation at Michigan State, I decided to join the Army in order to protect myself from falling into a substance abuse trap. I left a month after that, determined I would pull myself up by my bootstraps and make something of myself for my younger sisters. 3 years later, I was on my way back to Michigan. A new mother with an abusive husband I was in the process of divorcing. I was determined to get a job and take care of my kids. I called up the family I had stayed with, and they once again opened their home to me. I was full of shame, hurt, and struggling to cope with life. They stood by me and allowed me to heal by listening without judgment and loving me unconditionally. In April of 2014, they adopted me, and I finally had my forever family. They did not pretend my past never happened, and yet instead braced my wounds and allowed me to heal. I met Doug while I was staying with them, and from the very beginning of our relationship, he treated my children better than I could ever imagine. He loved them and was willing to jump through millions of hoops I set up in order to protect me and my children, including read the parenting book I required before I would date him. In June of 2014, we got married, and I changed my last name for the final time to Mooney. Today, I get to witness my children take his name as well. I am incredibly grateful for this wonderful, happy ending. My life journey has taught me a lesson, though. Adoption is not always easy. Adoption is a result of some kind of brokenness, and that brokenness has an effect on the child. It is a life commitment. It will be hard, and there will be times, like in any relationship, that flicker of doubt may come. Adoption changes lives. It gives hope, and hope is essential to life. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mooney, anything you'd like to say today?
Thank you, everyone, for being part of such an amazing day. You know, from the moment I met them, I've been their parent. I've been filled with joy and love and, you know, also fear that that could be taken away from me, and that this day, you know, really is the last nail in making sure that it can never happen, and that it can never be taken away from me. So it means the world to me. Thank you, everyone, for being part of it.
Ah. Judge Petoskey, anything you'd like to say to this family?
Your story is very touching, and the love is very apparent. Your story is not unique. I think too often we hear, or I hear similar kind of stories, and it really demonstrates the need for foster care parents and adoptive parents who can reach out beyond their own lives and embrace others. I mean, the relationship between two human beings can be so priceless, rewarding, and rich in so many different ways. It really is the essence of who we are as human beings, and I think everyone who is here today, especially the people who are adopting others, are very, very, very special people.
Thank you. Justices?
No?
You can't speak after that.
All right. Mrs. Mooney, one of the other teachings we talked about that Judge Petoskey has taught Justice McCormick and myself, the grandfather teaching, is bravery. What you did today to stand up and tell your story is an example of that teaching. So thank you for sharing it. It's great to see you all again. We're going to have a good lunch out there. Do I have the official document? This court finds that a petition for an order of adoption has been filed and all necessary orders terminating parental rights have been entered. The adoptee was not made a ward of the court, and the adoption of the adoptee by the petitioners is desirable, is in the best interest of the children. I might get that parenting book from my son-in-law, by the way. But I am signing both these documents, and congratulations to you.
Thank you.
yours, Justice.
I think she wants the microphone.
She does want, she wants to talk.
Say something to us.
Just say hi. Oh, now she got shy.
Now she's become shy.
Say something if you want to. Okay.
Did you get pictures?
You want a picture, Robert?
Pictures.
Yeah, let's go take a picture.
Come on.
Look at that. I know. Look at him. Checking it out. Oh, man.
More smiles. That's a smile. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that, that concludes the formal part of our program. There is a reception in the rotunda immediately after the ceremony. I have a big problem. I have 6 teddy bears that I need out of my courtroom, and I wonder if there's anybody who wants them.
There we go.
All right.
Look at the hands.
Come on up and get them. Yeah. I do? Why is that? Oh. Especially this one has to go. There. I want to thank especially all of the 3 families that opened their hearts to these wonderful children and made them part of their families. This is happening all across the state today, and it is my hope that this will inspire others to open their hearts and families to children who need both. Thank you very much for coming today. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. And now, let's go have a reception.
Thank you.
Yeah.